Thanks, Erin. Well, greetings, everyone who is here. My name is Dina DeBry. I work with Stanford Web Services. I see some familiar names there and some new names, so excited to see all of you. This session is focused on what's coming up on Stanford Sites. And I am going to start out a little bit with a platform overview just to give you a little sense of why we might be headed where we're headed and sort of what we're noticing on the platform as a whole. And then I'll dig in and give you some details of what we see in the Stanford Sites roadmap, including a demo of a couple of features from the release that will be happening in about 3 hours, starting in about 3 hours, tonight's release on Stanford Sites. And then I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions. So I will go ahead and get started. I thought I would start a little bit with, this is Stanford Web Services. And we have a smaller portion of that team that works on Stanford Sites. Including Mark and who's on the call, and actually Melanie should be highlighted. Yep, here, who's also here. So thank you for joining us too today. I wanted to start with just a little overview of what we have on the Stanford Sites platform. And by Stanford Sites platform, I'm really talking about Stanford Sites and also the Stanford Sites Intranet platform. And we have some affiliated platforms that are based on some of our Stanford Sites codes that may also inherit some of the features that you see today. So we have these statistics are from a little bit earlier in the fall. So we do twice yearly life cycle management, where we take a little look at what's on our stack and who's hosting things there. So we'll be doing another round of this in the spring. So this is actually more accurate as of probably November of this year. And we'll have some updated statistics, but I thought we might give you a sense of what is on the platform right now. So we had 879 public websites, 92 intranets, and about 447 sites in development. So I'm sure we'll see some flux when we take the numbers again, but it gives you an idea of the rough size of the Stanford Sites platform. We get about 250 million hits per month on average. We have a firewall in front of Stanford Sites that handles a lot of that. We get about 30 million dynamic requests on there. We recently, with our last release, are very proud that out of the box, when you get your fresh Stanford site, it has a 100% site target score out of the box. And then, so hopefully you can keep that maintained with some nicely maintained content. I think Carol on my team is giving a little overview about how to do that tomorrow. And we are very proud that we have 99.9% uptime. And as I mentioned, there's some custom sites or site stacks based on the Stanford Sites code that will probably also benefit from some of these features that we're developing. One of the interesting things about Stanford Sites is people use it for a pretty broad variety of purposes. And so this is one of the things we like to look at when we're prioritizing features. Who's using Stanford Sites and what are they using it for? So we have some very, very broad categories here. So I thought it'd be interesting to represent that. So course research sites, which are largely lab sites or research project sites, which can be student project sites, but also sometimes are administrative project sites or events, conferences, things like that. A fair number of personal sites and faculty, staff, student sites, academic, administrative, communities, so staff groups, student groups, communities of practice, things like that. Internal sites, service and facility sites, oh yes, and faculty sites. We also serve a pretty broad swath of the university. So rough breakdown by organization of use of Stanford Sites. So not going to read out all of the groups on there, but it's got some pretty broad representation. The very tiny slivers of things in there that are not labeled are things like Stanford Management Company that have such small footprint. They're just creating a little sliver of color on that chart. But I thought that might be a little bit of helpful context as we dive into the roadmap. So what else informs the roadmap? So we have a sites advisory group that meets twice a year. So we get really, really valuable feedback from the sites advisory group. Often we bring things to them that we're planning and solicit really specific feedback about features or policies or approaches. We see what support and feature requests we get in ServiceNow. So if we get frequent requests for a particular feature, we sort of look at that and add it to our roadmap if it makes sense, if it's a really frequently requested feature. It also might be sometimes that we created something that has created a bit of a support burden or is a little bit confusing. So maybe it is an opportunity to adjust an existing feature. We have clients who, work with us as part of our production support retainer teams, and they sometimes have very specific requests. So if they're working with us, they may bring us a feature request that's really important to their needs. We also look at, we report on existing feature use. So this has to do with not only, maybe we would want to enhance a feature. If we had two enhancements to two different features and one of them was more used than the other feature, we might prioritize the one that has the heavier use. Similarly, if there was a feature that is not in use, then we may look at retiring that feature so that we could support something that people would really want to use. Of course, we have to take into account known required upgrades, which is not a fun feature for anybody, but we do have to do it. So we're trying to keep the sites secure and easy to maintain. So we, of course, look at all of both the Drupal core and contributed module updates. Sometimes those upgrades are also informed by other things. So for example, we had to change out our events importer when the university changed their events calendar, right? So sometimes those features are driven by external forces. We also look at other sites across the Stanford web ecosystem. So we look at, it's our goal to try and provide value for people. And so for people who may be paying a large amount of money to a vendor, and really all they need is something that we could add to the Stanford Sites platform, we often add that as a possible feature on our platform so that maybe we could have the opportunity to, give them a free platform that will meet their needs. So we look to see what people are using really heavily on there. We also do client interviews just to get a sense of, what people are wanting and, what would make the platform more useful for them. So let's jump into the near-term roadmap. So I'm going to talk a little bit about now, which is actually the release that is coming out tonight, 5.6.0. And we'll talk a little bit about the next two releases. And then we're going to talk mention some of the things we see in the not too distant horizon. We're aiming to do about 4 to 6 releases a year, hopefully closer to 6. I think this year we'll end up with 6. And so we're usually trying to queue them up in 2 or 3 at a time. So we're often looking ahead, at least for the next 2 to 3 releases, sometimes a little further. For the release that's coming out tonight, it's actually a pretty meaty release, and I'll jump into some demos after we do this so you can get a little sneak peek, because some of what we're releasing in this release is sort of indicative of some of the expanded features that we're hoping for in our next 2 releases. One of the big ones is an opportunities content type. This is based on a lot of requests from a lot of users that they really needed a structured way to present opportunities very broadly. That includes things like grants, fellowships, internships, jobs, service opportunities, research opportunities, all kinds of things, study abroad opportunities, off-campus activity opportunities. So we wanted to make a flexible content type that had things like an application date, eligibility, prerequisites, but also that would start to look ahead at how we might add some richer visual features to some of our content types. You'll see a little bit of that in our demo. And then we'll talk a little bit about the filtering too, which is probably the part that people have been looking forward to for some time. But the opportunities content type is designed, it has a lot of fields, but we've designed it so that you could use it in a very lightweight way, or you could really go out and build out a very, very full-fledged opportunities node page. We have, to pair with that, a new paragraph type that's called a filtered list paragraph. And for those of us who did a lot of Stanford Sites Drupal 7 or just Drupal 7 or doing our own Drupal sites, you know, filtered views or lists is, you know, sort of one of the superpowers of Drupal. And it is a functionality that gets used a lot in our academic environment. But it's actually been very, very hard to provide at scale until we figured out the right model, because some people have one filter, some people have 2 filters, 3 filters, 4 filters, 5 filters. And so we were trying to make a system that would be very flexible, that would not presuppose what you had. And we also don't know what those filters would necessarily be. Some people might want to do it by time of year. Some people might want to have topics. They might want to have research areas. They might want to have it by year. I mean, there's a million ways we might want to filter and sort our content, and we didn't want to be opinionated about what those ways needed to be. We wanted to give the site owner the opportunity to really have what they needed so that people could discover the opportunities and filter them down to a usable list. So what I'll show you today is how that list paragraph works, like how you set it up, and then a little bit about what it looks like. We're going to be adding some enhanced versions of that. In the first 5.6.0, this filtered list paragraph only applies to the opportunities content type. But in our subsequent releases, we're hoping to expand this approach to many of the other content types. So people, events, news, publications. And then the final big feature for tonight's release is utility navigation. We have a lot of groups on campus who have the need for one or more links in the masthead area. Oftentimes it's something that you want to have as a persistent sort of call to action on your site, like file a report, apply now, donate, register. You can imagine a lot of these kinds of things that need to be a little more prominent than your main site navigation. Or sometimes you have a group that has a number of external resources that are commonly in use. So for example, not on Stanford Sites, but the Alumni Association, they have a link to their email and the alumni directory and things that are affiliated sites that people frequently access, but that, you know, again, you might not want to have in your informational nav. And we've decided to call it utility navigation. So I'll give a little bit of a demo about how to set that up on your site. I think that will be used quite a bit, I'm guessing. So that's tonight's release and today's demo, but let's talk a little bit about after tonight's release. So we have 2 more releases planned for this year, one near the end of June and one near the end of August. Of course, we don't ever fully promise those dates, although there is a release calendar on our user guide, so you can look at the dates, and that is kept very up to date. But sometimes we do have to shift release dates due to maintenance windows or other requirements. Some of the things that we have scheduled for these releases, we haven't slotted them yet into which will come out first. One is section colors. So the ability to put a background behind a section on your site. So we'll have a selection of colors. Kind of will help you chunk your content on a page. I think it will be also very useful. Again, as I mentioned, additional filtered lists for additional content types. So hoping for people, news, events, publications, possibly basic pages. We're going to discuss that. I'd love to hear some feedback at the end of the session if people have burning questions or desires. Stat card paragraph is also, you know, for people like to put on their pages like this many students or these many research fellows or this many grants, things like that, where you have like maybe a pop of color, really, really high impact, easy to read graphic with a little bit of information. We're actually adding an icon in there as well as an option. And so that stat card paragraph is on our release list, I'm guessing for June. We also have an in-page alert feature. So, you know, we have the global message right now at the top that a lot of you use to say, you know, the lab is closed today, or, you know, the deadline for this is happening here. But sometimes you need an alert just for a subsection of your pages, right? Maybe you have a sub-program that has an application deadline and you don't necessarily want it across your whole site. So this feature would allow you to place something with a very similar design to the global message on a series of pages. And we're also looking at the ability to schedule that alert to go on and off. So, and with some color options and some icon options for that in-page alert. Federated search. So right now, I mean, you might not have realized that we did release this already, but in one of our fall releases, we released the ability to improve your search on your individual site using a third-party search tool called Algolia. And there's been quite a number of sites that have picked that up. Intranets in particular have really benefited from that because they aren't able to take advantage of Google search results. But we had a number of clients who have more than one site and they want to provide unified search results, right? So they want to be able to, maybe they have 15 or 20 sites and they want their users to be able to see results from multiple sites. Well, that requires a little bit of design so that when you are seeing the search results, you understand what results are coming from this site and which results are coming from maybe affiliated sites. So we're working on the designs for those now so that for users who are using Algolia, they can have the option to federate their search across a number of sites. We're working on Drupal 11 readiness. I do not think we will be releasing Drupal 11 in this academic year, but it is highly likely that our fall release will be Drupal 11. We're, I believe last time I checked, 4 modules away from Drupal 11 readiness. That upgrade will happen invisibly in the same way that we did our Drupal 9 and our Drupal 10 updates. So if you're on Stanford Sites, you're on Drupal 10 now. When we move to Drupal 11, there's nothing you need to do. You'll just one day wake up and be on Drupal 11. But those updates do tend to be a little bit meatier. So if you're in our Stanford Sites updates Slack channel, you can see what we might mention about possible like sort of maintenance window when we roll out that release, because it is almost certainly a release where you're not going to be wanting to edit your site while we're rolling that release out. So look for that in the fall. But right now, we're really prepping with readiness. We're trying to do as much as we possibly can, update as much of our own code and related codes so that when we do it, it can be as simple of a release as possible. We are also making some changes to the default install state when you get a new Stanford site. When we first rolled out Stanford Sites in the end of February 2020, you know, no one had ever built on Stanford this version of Stanford Sites before, and examples were really important. But also people were trying to like move Drupal 7 sites into the platform as quickly as possible. And so we also had some things in there that were very, very common needs for the type of sites that we're moving over. So we actually have a very large amount of default content that comes with the site. We also had some like, keep it live, let it be indexed, do all the things because we were launching fast and furious. But, 5 years later on, that is not the situation we're in. And people are building different kinds of sites now. And the burden of removing that default content is a little bit greater. We are encouraging people to launch their sites with a real URL. So having them immediately findable while you're working on them is not ideal. We've actually already made that change. Any of you have recently provisioned a site will notice that the front page is unpublished and it's blocked to search traffic until it's launched. But we're also hoping to pare down that default content. So we're continuing to make that change as we go forward, just to make getting started a little bit faster and a little easier. We're having some discussions too about what theme is on it by default, because we do have a lot of sites that are affiliated sites or student group sites that have different branding requirements. So there may be also a change in what theme comes out of the box, but that has not been totally determined yet. We're also planning to roll out some refinements to the branding section of the site based on some feedback from University Communications. So they've asked for some refinements in the header and the lockup, but we also really want to make it easier for you to quickly get your branding up there on the site as quickly as possible. So for those of you who are like, I've just uploaded my school logo for the umpteenth time on this platform, we're hoping to make it a little bit more like you can select it and it's already there. So that is a plan. And then I say more because there may be something that comes up in these next 2 releases that we add in there. We're always putting in accessibility fixes and other bug fixes too. And we'll be doing some fast follows on that opportunity and filtered list paragraph too, to support some other variants of the filtered list paragraph. So coming up, longer term, next year, obviously, as I mentioned, we're looking at Drupal 11. But we have a couple of other things that we've been looking at too. So one of them is actually a design refresh in general. So we have not changed, we've made design tweaks to the theme, but we haven't done a really rethinking of the theme. And since now we have a large volume of sites on the platform and we can look what the most common uses are, I think that's one opportunity to look at the overall design. And the other one is that University Communications will be redesigning www.stanford.edu, and that may also have some design feelings that we wish to bring over into the Stanford Sites platform so that we can provide that aligned branding with the main university site. So we're going to be looking at that design refresh. We're not going to change what your site looks like without telling you. It would probably be more of a new theme that we start communicating about and allow you to move over to when you're comfortable moving over to it. We're going to continue to look at new paragraphs. I'm sort of hoping our in-page alert and our stat cards are just the tip of the iceberg, but we're constantly getting requests for, other types of card and banner formats, additional types of list displays. We have some ideas about other kinds of reusable paragraphs. So we're hoping to continue to explore some of those options. And we always put on here too that because we're keeping an eye on the privacy landscape for the university, I would anticipate possibly in next fiscal year that we're going to be looking at rolling out some sort of mechanism to help people with cookie compliance. So that's a little bit of a high level about the future. I thought that I would go back in now, and I'll come out of here and maybe just give you a little sneak peek at what's coming out tonight. I'm going to make sure I leave some room for time. So I mentioned the utility navigation, and I seem to have been relogged in here as this. Hold on, I'm just going to go change my screen to be a little bit tidier and cleaner. I was a few minutes ago. It's always fun when you're doing something on a test server. Oh no, I'm there. All right. Okay. On the day of a release. So hopefully we'll not have any hilariousness in my demo. So one of the things you're going to see after tonight's release is a little bit of a cleaned up site settings page. So this is where you put your site name normally in your Google Analytics account. And we've actually consolidated all of the things for the site header section. So if you're looking, let's go look at a site right here. So this area up here of a Stanford site, we've consolidated these into this site header options area here. So if we click this open here, you're going to see those options that you saw that you'd see today on there about the main menu. So whether or not you use drop-down menus, the maximum number of levels you want to see on there, and some work that we're doing about our decoupled menus. But I'm going to tuck that back up again because this is where this new utility nav feature is going to be found. So if I go in here, I have the option to add in 4 different links. You can do a button. You don't have to do all of them. You can do a button. You could do a button and 3 links, a button and 1 link, button and 2 links. You could just do 2 links, 1 link, 3 links, whatever combination of this you want to do. So if we do this here, I'm just going to use really boring URLs. Let's see what it's going to look like. So if I fill that in, I'll just make that clear that this is my button. And I can say link 1. You would, of course, not want to have it all go to the same link. Link 2. And 3. So if I go ahead and I fill out these header links in here and click save, I'll go back to my home page here. You'll see that I now have some utility nav right up here in the top corner of my site. But as I mentioned, I could have just had just the button. Great for like I said, report an incident or, you know, apply now or something that you really want to highlight and take out of the main navigation, or some persistent links that you need that are maybe going off to external sites or other places of interest. I should say too, I'll leave some time for questions. So we have time to ask questions about any of these. I'm also going to show you a little bit about our filtered lists. So this is something that I think people are going to be pretty excited about in this first release of a filtered list paragraph. We're doing a sidebar filter. And this is going to be great for people who do want to have a large number of filters, right? Because they're going to fit really beautifully. They'll fit right down the side. I only had time to make on our test environment 3 items, so it's not going to be a very exciting filtered list, but I really wanted to show you more of the concept about how the filtered list is set up and how it's placed. So if you look here, I have set up some filters for eligibility, location, quarter. These are scrollable. In the next release, they'll actually be collapsible, so you can collapse them. And again, you can have as many or as few as you'd like. In a future release, we're also hoping to release one with a set of top filters. But this work was partially sponsored by a client, and their biggest need was sidebar filters. And it's also really allows for, like I said, a very large filtered list for people. So again, these actually, if I say, okay, well, I'm going to do graduate, it's going to just work things on demand. I think actually there's not, let's see here. There. And you'll notice a few things about this. One is, so these are, you can add these filters together to narrow down your list. So you have a very large volume of things. You can help your users narrow them down by whatever their preferences are. But you'll also notice a few other things. We've given the affordance for an icon. We're actually doing some very equal height rows so that we have like a very tidy grid. And we're releasing 2 versions of this for opportunities. So one is the card filtered version, and the other will be a more standard sort of text list. So if you don't have images, or if the type of content that you have is more fitting as a list than it is as cards, you can make that selection. And I'll show you how that works in a second. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we set up these filters, because as I said, this was something we really struggled very hard with, because we didn't want to bloat the content type and have you open your setting up categories and taxonomies page and be overwhelmed with opportunities filter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, people's filter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We wanted a system that would grow and be flexible and be simple and allow you the maximum amount of flexibility. So what we did was we created a single taxonomy called opportunities filters. So if you look at my example there, you can sort of map what's happening there to what's happening in this taxonomy. The top level is the label, right? So it's not a filter in and of itself. It's the label for the filter. So I see eligibility, location, quarter, subject, and I see eligibility, location, quarter, subject. And then anything I have nested under that becomes a filter. And so the idea then is, again, if I suddenly wanted to add a new category, I can do that very easily. If I want to remove a category or move them around, it uses all the same things within that taxonomy. So it's very easy to control how you want it to display. So for example, if I really wanted quarter to be first, I could have it be first and save it. And then I should be able to come back over here. And it might take a moment for it, because of course I'm giving a demo and it will take a moment to do it. I probably need to wait for some caching. It's great to have something like that demo. I was even thinking of that as I did that. But it will refresh in there. And like I said, I could add a new category when I wanted to. I also wanted to mention, I wanted to mention that also plays out on the individual page. So I didn't fill out these pages all the way, but on the edit form, we also didn't want to make it, let's say you have a very long filter list that you wanted. We didn't really want the user to have to I need to pick the one that's at the bottom and go all the way down a single taxonomy list. So on the edit form for the individual opportunity, you can see actually we mirror the little icon over here too. If I come over here and I look, this information will actually display on the item itself with the same labels as well. But if I come in here, you'll notice that these filters are actually split out into separate taxonomies. So it's really easy to enter them and think of them just in the same way you see them in the filtering interface. We have a little less than 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure that I reserve some time for some questions, because, probably more I could show here, but I thought that would be a little snapshot of this evening. Actually, I think I'll stop my share so I can see people. So you can ask in the chat, I think, or if you want to just come off and mute, I'd love to hear what anyone, or comments. I know it doesn't have to be questions. It's all totally clear.
I'll jump in. What's the experience like with a brand new website? Is the taxonomy empty? And
Yes, it is. I did not want people to have the burden of removing that. And I also didn't really want to impose our ideas of what people might use that for on it, you know, so it really is supposed to be quite flexible. And I actually know a couple of users that are planning to use opportunities to list courses because we don't really have a robust course display. So we do actually have a few fields in that opportunities content type for a course code. So that you can add that information on the node really easily. Because there's service learning opportunities and field things that are attached to a course. So yeah, so we just didn't really want to pregame it. So it is empty.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. I did struggle with that a little bit, but I'm tired of clearing out taxonomy terms on sites to clean them up. So I'm like, remove it all. Other questions? Other features people are like, when are you going to do? Probably the one we get the most is carousel, I'm guessing still. Any burning feelings about carousels, image carousels? I'd love to hear them now. Oh, quiet. People needed more lunch.
Do you have any pipeline things coming up that you hadn't mentioned yet?
Like what kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess I don't know anything specific, but anything you might be working on that you're excited about.
Oh, well, I'm pretty excited about this. I guess I can mention one thing, like we're looking a little bit about, we rolled out that site ownership stuff in the fall where you enter who owns the site and things. We might create a public display of that information or some kind of display of that information. So it's really easy to see who owns a site. And yeah, so there's some things like that, but I'm really excited about just rolling out these filtered lists a little bit more because I know people have really waited a long time and we do have a lot of sites that have a lot of content. I should actually also mention in that opportunities content type, for those of you who maybe noticed from our last release, we rolled out some content management views to help you better look at all the content of a particular type on your site. So events, news, and people. So you could see all the taxonomy and you could do bulk tagging of those things. And of course, we rolled that out for opportunities because you may want to bulk tag those. It might make it a little faster and easier to enter that content. So we're going to do that. And we've had a request for a better basic page content management view too. So I anticipate us adding that too in a really near release. Just say no to carousels. Yes, people do really want carousels. I get the need for carousels, right? You know, we're in an academic environment and it's very nice to show everybody as equal, right? Like everybody has a spot in the hero part of the page. I understand the impulse. They're very hard to make accessible. And so it's one of those things where if we can do it and keep our support burden rational, I think that we would try to do something. But we'll see. People are very attached to the idea of carousels for sure. Very, very popular. So yes, it's true. Not being a feature, you say like, no, don't do it. We sometimes look at a site called should I use a carousel.com, which is a little bit snarky, but also a little bit funny. So I feel like checking that out. It's enjoyable. All right, no more questions or feature requests. I feel like I've stunned you all into silence. Cynthia, do you have this look like you're coming off mute? No? Great.
Actually,
Yeah.
you showed us the beautiful card display. Do you still have the test site open where you can show us another display? You mentioned there's
Oh, the
a
list.
quiz view
Oh.
and the card view. Like, what does that look like?
Well, that is the card view.
Right.
That was the card view. I should also mention that card view, I do have it still open. The card view, let's go there. Okay, I thought I still had it open there. I think we're back here. If we come back here. So we have that card view. Let's change it actually to a list view. Actually, we didn't talk about how to place this on a page, so I'll do that really quickly. So what you're going to see when you place it on a page, I'll just start from scratch here, is you place a one column section, and you're going to see, in addition to the things you usually see, you're going to see this filtered list paragraph right here. And just like you normally would, you'll give it a little headline. I'm just going to say opportunities. You can give it a description if you want to. And then here's that thing. So right now, as I mentioned, it's only opportunities, but in a future release, hopefully you'll see people, news, events, publications, and then you get to choose your display. So we were looking at the card grid. So this is the default list. And it looks very similar to the default list, but even before I show you that, I'm going to mention something. Obviously, with that sidebar, it needs the space. So what happens if you have a sidebar menu on that page? So normally when you remove a sidebar menu on a page on Stanford Sites, you're coming down here and you're going to layout options. But you will notice the second you choose that filtered list paragraph, it's going to turn into a full width page because it has to have it. You can't, otherwise you would end up with a weird menu and filtering on the same thing. When we add the top filtered views, we're going to have to relook at what that experience is like. We may allow the menu on the side in that case, but for this one, we really needed the full real estate of the screen. So that decision will be taken care of for you. So if I click save now, you'll see that I now have like a more traditional text list. So I should also mention that this is the filtered list, but we'll also be providing an unfiltered list for people who just need like 3 opportunities, like featured opportunities or something like that. And they just need to use the regular list paragraph. You're also going to see a card and a default list display in the regular list paragraph. All right, maybe I'll get a quick temperature read. Does anyone here think they'll use utility navigation or filtered lists? I mean, I know I will, but glad Erin will. Well, I think we're right at time. So thank you all for coming to hear a little bit more about our Stanford Sites roadmap. And if you have any after session feedback or things you felt like you wanted to hear today that you didn't, please just drop me a note, drop me a Slack. I would love to hear from you. We're always interested in knowing what people want.
Thanks, Dana.